Welcome to the Dental MBA podcast, focusing on strategies for dental business owners and leaders to grow thriving and profitable practices. This podcast is powered by eAssist Dental Solutions, the nation's leading platform for outsourced dental billing and revenue cycle management services. All guests have been invited to share their insights based on their knowledge and expertise in the business of dentistry. Their opinions and recommendations are their own, and you should consult with your own professional advisors with respect to your own practice. Welcome to another episode of the Dental MBA podcast. I'm Penny Reed, your host, and we're excited to bring this to you from eAssist Dental Solutions. And today's guest is a friend and very well-known colleague, Laura Nelson. Hey there, Laura. How are you today?
I'm excited to be here. I'm super good. Thank you.
Awesome. So for those of you that don't know Laura, you're in for a treat. She is the founder of Front Office Rocks, the co-founder of Sober Life Rocks, which what we'll center our conversation around today, and also the coach for the ADOM Mastermind, the American Association of Dental Office Management Mastermind. She knows a lot of things and she's a lot of fun. So thank you, Laura, again for being with us.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Well, me too. And before we dive into, I'm sure you guys are intrigued by the title, The Taboo Subject of Alcohol in the Dental Profession. Laura and I were laughing a few minutes ago about when we first met was on the Golden Girls of Dentistry cruise. And that was how many years ago was that? 4 or 5 years ago?
Oh, and I think even maybe a little bit more than that, honestly.
Maybe. Here's what's so funny is I was thinking, wow, think about how young we were when we went on that cruise. Like we were too young. We were too young to be on the cruise. If there's ever one of those again, Laura said, we'll be leading the thing. So
if anyone knows who's listening to this, Linda Miles was on the cruise and it was our biggest honor to be involved with. She's one of our mentors. And now I told Penny, the next time we get invited on the cruise, we're going to be the ones that
we'll be the old, we'll be the older matriarchs that others are like, oh my goodness, they'll be saying I got to hang out with Laura. I don't know if they'll say that I got to hang out with Penny.
Oh, they will after they get off the cruise with you because you're a lot of fun. So
maybe we do know how to have fun. Life is short and it makes work a whole lot more interesting when we have fun. And I think a lot of what we're going to talk about today, not only the taboo subject of alcohol in the dental profession, but also that it's possible to have a whole lot of fun without alcohol. So but let's talk a little bit about what Sober Life Rocks is and how it came about.
Yes. So I have been in that dental industry, like we just talked about, for a very long time, 20 plus years. I started speaking, at conferences and stuff, probably 15 years ago. Did the whole, everything everyone does, right? We go to conferences, we fly there, we go to events, we network at night, we're up really late, we eat too much, we drink a lot, we do the thing, we get up the next morning, we're exhausted, we do it again, we go home, we have to sleep for a day, right? And that was my life, my cycle, right? And I was going through life amazingly well, building Front Office Rocks, training lots of team members. And then one woke up one day after one of those conferences and really questioned, and I can tell the long story if we want to get into it, but really questioned my relationship with alcohol. And in my mind, it was, I thought you had to hit rock bottom to have to stop drinking. And I was afraid to hit rock bottom. I was functioning fine, but I knew in my brain and in myself that my relationship with alcohol was not great. So I quit drinking in 2020, right before the pandemic hit and the world shut down. So I watched everybody else, doing stuff online and drinking and stuff. And I just kind of lived in my house and got through the first year as everybody did, but without drinking. But then I got back on the road. And as a speaker, we go to these events and we get asked to go to the evening events and there's the networking and and then I had the have a glass of wine on the plane and all of that. all of that changed for me. I got back on the road and I'm like, I feel very alone. I go to these conferences. It feels like everyone's drinking. I've learned now everybody's not, but I feel like they are. It's awkward to, do I not drink? Do I go to the event? Do I leave? The whole thing. And so I was kind of navigating it by myself for a while, a good year or so on the road. And then I had an opportunity to be at an event. I was on a panel last fall, and on the panel, I was brought on to a mind body health panel, which, Penny, you understand, you and I are like the business people. We're like, put me on a panel about how to grow the practice, train your team. So here I'm sitting on a mind body, a spirit panel where they're talking about breath work and their yoga and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not in my element, but I was brought on because the speaker or the person who organized the meeting knew I had stopped drinking and knew that was a big accomplishment. And that's something I was proud of. And I mentioned it from the panel, and I asked in the group, how many people, there was about 125 women, how many people in here consider themselves sober, soberish, sober curious? And a quarter of the room raised their hand. And nobody knew of each other. So everybody was navigating this alone. The going to the events, the night before, all they handed out was champagne, right? And it wasn't, were they in recovery? It wasn't why they weren't drinking. It was just nobody knew. And the meeting planner had no idea either. They only had alcohol at the events. And that's where Sober Life Rocks was birthed. Margy Schaller, my business partner, happened to be in the audience, and she and I knew that we were sober, but we didn't know about all these other women. And we met at the end of this conference and said, this has to change. We need to, I don't want anyone to feel alone. I don't want people to worry about, neither of us want people to consider like, what do you have in your cup or not? It shouldn't matter. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to be proud and be out there and help those that maybe don't feel that way. And so that's kind of where Sober Life Rocks birthed.
Yeah, I love that. And it's really about, inclusivity. And the main thing that should be in your cup is friendship. Right.
Oh my gosh. Can we use that for a t-shirt?
Absolutely. It just, every now and then, a little idea just pops up, it's yours complimentary today for joining us on this. And I've seen, throughout the years, the impact, and alcohol doesn't impact everyone this hard, but I've seen some very detrimental effects of some of the doctors that I used to work with and team members that I used to work with. And so this is not so much about whether someone chooses to have a drink or not, yet creating an environment that's safe, and for people to feel included. So, but let's hit a little bit more about it being a taboo subject, because it does seem like at the end of the day, hey, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, gonna have a cocktail or, what have you. Let's talk about that a little bit more.
So I can get real with you, right? Penny, you and I've been friends a long time. Okay. So I'm going to go there. And for anyone listening to this, I'm going to go there so that you can see why it's a taboo subject, right? So you mentioned this already. Not everybody has problems with alcohol. Not everybody, just because I stopped drinking doesn't mean that you have to stop drinking. It's a personal choice, right? And there's lots of people who've never drank, religious reasons, health reasons, medical reasons, right? That was not my journey, but that's, there's lots of people who don't drink, but I was on the side that did. And I grew up, be careful. We have alcoholism in our family, be careful. But I never knew what life could be like without alcohol, because it's everywhere in our society, right? You go to sports games, you see ads, you're going to be rich.
Well, and it's like, oh, hey, wait, when I turn 16, I can drive. When I turn 18, I can vote. Woohoo. When I turn 21, I can legally drink. Right. I mean, it's been one of those benchmarks in many of our lives. It's kind of been marketed to us that way.
Exactly. Too. And everywhere you go, I mean, it is the first thing you see at a restaurant. It's the first thing you see in a magazine. It's the first thing. And so it is part of our society. And the newer research is coming out that we used to think you were an alcoholic or you weren't. It was a clinical issue. It was a thing a person had a problem with, right? It was the person. But what has been researched and shown now is alcohol use disorder is a spectrum. And you are on the spectrum if you've ever drank for the wrong reason, drank too much, or regretted drinking the next morning. you are on the spectrum. Now, are you as far as I was, or maybe the person who's, sitting outside of a liquor store with a brown bag? No, but you are on the spectrum. And the thing we have to realize is that alcohol is an addictive substance.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question. It is an addictive substance. So if anybody does it enough for a long enough period of time, you will get addicted. There's no question about that. So when do you get addicted? And this is great. We have dental people listening. It's the same thing as like, when do we have to replace that tooth? Or when is that tooth going to break? We don't know. Like, if you wrong bite, the wrong thing in your life comes at you, and the alcohol is there, right? And like you said, the purpose for why you're using it, how often you're using it, and it's a self-diagnosed disease. That's the thing, is there's no, like, you can't go on the internet and say, am I an alcoholic? Or go to a doctor and say, am I an alcoholic? Because it's like, I don't know. Are you? Here's some factors. But if you're researching, am I an alcoholic? You're probably a little bit further on the spectrum, right? And so that's the taboo part of it, is that it's hard to admit that we are all potentially, if you've drank, on the spectrum, because what we need to realize then is this addictive substance is in our life when we're doing it willingly. Okay, right? Totally fine. You can choose to do it or not do it. That's your decision. But now we go out into society. And if I were to go to a dental meeting and go to the evening event and say, hey, I stopped doing cocaine, everybody would be like, oh, good job. Like, good job, right? But if I say I stopped drinking, people are like, why? Are you pregnant? Yeah. Do you have a problem? Is it recovery? Are you in recovery? So we have this societal pressure where people can make decisions on their own. We have to recognize what this thing is. It is an addictive substance. And we are not all doing it, but a good percentage of society drinks it, and that's fine. It's informed consent. But I should also be able to choose not to drink it and not have the pressure of why, right?
Yeah. Or, okay, so maybe you just haven't tried the right drink.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
No, I'm also laughing at the "Are you pregnant?" And I'm thinking, didn't we just say that we went on the Golden Girls of Dentistry cruise?
Actually,
hey, modern technology, you never know what could happen.
When I talk from the stage, that is because I'm working on this presentation. That's part of my joke. Like, typically when you go to order a drink, when you don't drink, you throw a lime in it at an event so people think you're drinking. And the questions are normally like, are you in recovery? Why are you not drinking? Or are you pregnant? I don't get those questions anymore, but the younger generation.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right.
Well, and I think too, I'm sure it will be years of study that things will come out about what the impact of COVID was on, and this, not that that's what this is about, but we were also isolated, right? And so I think it helped us see how important it is to be able to get together and to feel connected. And that for a segment, if we were to take the sampling of that audience that you were in, so let's say it's 25%, you may have better stats, maybe it's 15%, maybe it's 30%, that is very uncomfortable, and even worse, tempted to do something that they've worked very, very hard to not do. And how do we support each other? So, but let's talk about, what is it like to go to professional events and not drink? You've already touched on that. It sounds like it hasn't been easy. Is it easier now that you have a platform to talk about it?
Is it easier? The reality is, it is hard. It is hard not to drink. I don't want to drink. So let me put, it is hard. Part of the reason that I'm so, as you can tell, adamant about this is because when I set my mind to something, there's no problem, right? Like, I'm just, right. But it's like going to a buffet and there's cookies, right? When I go to conferences and I'm like, I'm on a diet, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to work out, and there's a cookie there, I'm like, I'm going to eat that cookie. Yeah. So it is hard in the sense that we indulge at these events many times. It's after hours. Alcohol is the bar is the main connection. It's everywhere. And so is it hard for me? There are times, I mean, there's, I'm like, oh, that glass of wine looks pretty good. But I also play
Mhm.
it through my head and go, yeah, no, I choose not to do that. However, I do think it's hard for so many people. And
Mhm.
that is why Margie and I started Sober Life Rocks. We have people in our community that even they're salespeople, there are dental people who haven't even told their bosses that they don't drink alcohol.
Mm.
They're faking it. And there are a lot of people who don't even go to conferences because they know the pressure of the evening events. There are people who go
Mhm.
back to their rooms early. And like you said, we were isolated for so long. Why are we spending the money and time and energy to go to conferences to then go back to our hotel room at night? Why can't we have events and do things where everybody can feel included? Have the alcohol, that's okay. It's societal, it's not going
Right.
away. But just let's make it okay for everyone to make it easier to choose not to if they don't want to.
Sure, sure. So have, mocktails and or just
Yep.
have that not be the central theme
Yeah.
of what the event is for or about. So this is not about, for those of you that tuned in, that it's like don't ever drink or that it's not okay for anyone to have a drink, but it's about creating that environment, especially in a time where finding great people to be on your team, regardless of what industry. I mean, it's gotten harder to find
Mhm.
great people to work. I think a lot of folks really took a step back and were like, hey, I want to work for myself, or this is what I'm looking for in a career. And really being sure that we're being supportive. And we talked about this when we had our planning call. E-assist, our executive team, and this really comes from our CEO, is like, hey, when executive team, when you're at an event, you represent the company, right?
Mhm.
Be a leader. This is not about legislating what you can or can't do in your own personal life, although we hope that you're going to make great choices and take care of yourself and have life balance. Yet, hey, let's face it, if somebody sees you with a drink, they don't know that it's only one, right?
Right.
They may think it's
Right.
the first of 10, or what if they are on the far end of that spectrum? And because
Right.
maybe I'm the one that kind of led them to do it. So I think it's looking at where you are and, whatever that appropriate behavior is for you there. And then
Yep.
being sure that we've got, I know we had a mocktail uh,
Uh-huh.
bar at our summit, and we had the Sober Life Rocks,
I
swizzle
love it.
sticks. And
Thank you.
I was having to go around and go, hey, guys, I know you don't drink, but it's all mocktails. Like there are no cocktails over there. You can't
Uh-huh.
order anything with alcohol over there. You have to go to the bar to get that. And it was like, oh, and it was fun. Like I was seeing people, taking pictures. And so
Yep.
it just gave an inclusivity that I think a lot of times we don't have. But as a company, we do make it easy for you to
Yep.
not have to make that choice. And I think that's nice.
And I think that's huge kudos for you and your organization and your CEO. And we super appreciate that. On the flip side, I wasn't at an event recently, but there was an event in our industry that's just finished where the opening videos was romanticizing. I don't know if that's the right word, but like
Mhm.
talking about like going out and partying the night before and getting drunk and doing those things. And it's like, we are making an impact on, we were talked about the Golden Girls, right? We're making an
Mhm.
impact on our younger
Yeah,
generation.
we are.
And so it's not, it's just is not the 50s where you have the bar in your office like we see on TV and everybody has a drink at that. Like we have to realize that we've got to be inclusive. We're inclusive for so many things.
Mhm.
And this is just one of those areas that this is why it's taboo, because listening to this, if you're listening personally, and even if you're like, I don't have a problem with alcohol, I don't have a problem with these events, I love when they have mocktails. What do you say personally to somebody when they don't order a drink? Because are you saying, are you sure you don't want a glass of wine? Maybe you should try something like you said, something different. What are you doing with your teams after hours? Are you taking everybody to a brewery? I know my old dental office, I just saw their team building event was at a wine tour. Okay, does everybody drink wine? Is there, you can do that, but do we have something for the people who don't drink? Like
Mhm.
these are the things that we really want people to start thinking of, because I just think societally it hasn't been thought of, and it's
Right.
time to change that. We've got to make sure everybody feels included.
Yeah, I think that's so true. So, this is one reason why when you approached us about being a sponsor for Sober Life Rocks, that we were like, yeah, we want to do this. This is
Love it.
a cause that we believe in. And so, would you share with the audience more about what Sober Life Rocks is? Who is
Mhm.
it for, and how to join the community?
Yes, for sure. So you can join. You don't have to be sober to be part of the community. But it's focused around helping us normalize the discussion around sober choices. And so whether you're sober, whether you're sober-ish, like you just maybe have a glass of champagne at a toast or something, but you really don't drink, whether you're sober curious, which we're hoping there's a lot more people who are being curious about the idea of being sober or alcohol free. Not everybody loves the word sober. Or sober wingman, which Margy coined that. That's basically like anyone who believes in this. And so we really appreciate eAssist as a company being like a sober wingman on the front with us. And there is a membership fee to be part of the community, but what you get as part of the community is daily emails where we're actually having discussions around these topics, right?
Mhm.
Like there is the societal pressure. And even if you stopped drinking 5 years ago, like you asked me, sometimes it's harder in some situations than others, right? And so we want to support, honor, and celebrate those who are making choices towards, what's right for them.
Mhm.
We also have an expert series. We bring in different speakers who talk to different things because honestly, and you mentioned this earlier, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. We turn to alcohol many times to numb the whatever it is. Well,
Mhm.
when you put the bottle down, that doesn't take away the thing, whatever it is, whether you're trying to numb pain or fear,
Mhm.
or it's hard to network without alcohol. Like you have
Mhm.
to learn how to do the life, right? So we bring in experts that talk about that. And then we have a mastermind group, a community call where we just bring everyone together, whoever wants to talk about like, how do you handle the question when someone says, what, are you pregnant?
Mhm.
Like, how do you handle and now everyone's getting sloppy and I want to go back to my room, like all of the different things of
Mhm.
life, because it's real life, and so that's what you get included with Sober Life Rocks.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And so I know we'll post in the show notes the contact information and the links, but if you would share, the website or any other, social media things that can be followed, that would be great.
Yeah, so we are Sober Life Rocks. So you just come to the website, you can learn more there, you can sign up. We had started in dental. We are actually kind of expanding this to professionals in general. Because the reason is as we're talking to different groups, people in other
Mhm.
industries, they're like, they have the same problems we have. They go to the same conferences we have. We pack up our dental meetings, go home, and the next one is the insurance or manufacturing or legal.
Mhm.
And we feel the more we have in the community, the more we can lean on each other. The one thing I do want to mention for anyone listening to this too is we do feel in dental that there is a real issue with licensing, protecting yourself, and so you can join our community and you can join anonymously if you are curious. If you can just set up a fake email, join the list, start getting our emails, and nobody has to know. We're not here to help people get sober, but we're here to normalize the discussion. We're here to celebrate and honor the choices that you make. So you can follow us on all the Sober Life Rocks. I think I named it. I was Front Office Rocks. I thought, why not Sober Life Rocks?
Yeah.
And it does. I actually was talking to somebody once and she said, does it? And I said, does what? And she goes, does it rock? And I'm like, well, yeah, for me it does.
Yeah. Well, and I
So
think it allows you, or I would think most people make that choice to be more present. Um,
mhm,
as opposed, and alcohol allows a lot of people to check out, right? And it's funny. I was just thinking about myself because I still occasionally have a drink, right? But I'm very different and very intentional. I can remember in my younger years, in my 20s and 30s, being at conferences and being at these mixers, cocktail hours, and having a cocktail or two, and now wondering like what in the world I might have said
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
to someone, not that it was anything bad, but,
Uh-huh.
just not as sharp or mentally focused. Like, did I really utilize that time the way that I could have? And now if it's an environment like that, or the day before that I'm going to speak, I'm like, oh, no way. Like, I want to be
Yeah.
sharp. And I mean, maybe it's my age
Yeah.
now in doing that. But I think there are a lot of things that we did, the rear view mirror, where it's like, hey,
Uh-huh.
was that when, if I was really trying to build my business, me not
Yep.
being fully present, was that really in my best interest?
Actually, it's funny you bring that up because speaking of Linda Miles, bringing it full circle, I had a conversation with her after we started Sober Life Rocks, and we were talking about being speakers and being on the road and the decision to drink or not drink. And there's one or two meetings that I really, really have, like, we have meetings that we put ourselves on. I'd love to speak on their stage.
Yeah.
There's a couple that haven't asked me to speak yet for Front Office Rocks. And I look back and I'm like, was there a time maybe I drank a little too much and they watched and they put like the little black mark next to my name?
Mhm.
I'm putting this out here now. I plan to be on those stages in the future, and I plan to be talking about Sober Life Rocks.
There
That's
we go.
because I do think we need to spread this message. I
Yeah.
do. I do. So I think it's full circle and ironic that maybe that's what's going to get me on their stage.
Yeah. Well, hey, it definitely, life uses different things that happen for a reason. I think it's wonderful that you and Margie both have been brave and bold about this message and open that door for it, at least for the purpose and intent of this podcast, for the dental community to be able to say, you know what, if I want to be my best self, and
Mhm.
that means I don't drink, that I don't want to feel, it kind of puts us back in junior high. We don't want to,
Yeah.
especially don't want to be made fun of for
Right.
making the harder choice.
Yep. It is the
That
harder choice, and I
it's the harder
appreciate you say
choice.
that. It is hard to go, and hence the taboo part. It's hard to go against society and
Yeah.
do what you feel is the right thing, whatever that is. It's hard to walk past that cookie and say, I'm not going to eat that cookie. It's the harder choice,
Yeah.
right? But it's the right choice for lots of people, and we need to honor that.
Well, as long as you don't form a group that says anti-cookie life rocks,
No, not at
because
all.
that would probably make me sad. I'm kidding.
No,
I
not at
I
all. Well,
probably need to start that group if I'm just being
yeah,
honest.
I actually had to lean into those cookies for a while. I'd go to these
Woo.
conferences and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to have that drink, but I'm going to go have that
But
piece of
I'm
chicken.
totally having that cookie. I might even have two.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Good for you. Yes.
Well, hey, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you being vulnerable and having this honest discussion. And I would imagine that you will be on. I didn't know there were any big stages that you hadn't
Yep.
been on yet. I imagine you'll be on there very soon. So,
I appreciate it. And we really appreciate eAssist with this, supporting this and helping us spread the word. So thank you so much for letting us be on today.
well, you're welcome. We look forward to continuing on the journey with you. And thank you again for making the time to be with us. And we look forward to having you back.
Sounds great. I'll see
All
you
right.
then.
Thanks, Laura. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Dental MBA podcast is sponsored by eAssist Dental Solutions, a platform dedicated to helping dentists get paid faster and get paid more. Dental insurance billing services provided through the eAssist platform can relieve your dental insurance headaches, get your over 90-day insurance receivables near zero, and help you collect 100% of what you're rightfully owed by insurance companies. To learn more about how the eAssist platform can solve your revenue cycle management needs, or to schedule a free consultation, please visit dentalbilling.com.